And this word collusion is all over the place. I mean, everybody colludes in this city, right?
I don't think Democrats could find Russia on a map until they found out or concluded that it could somehow be used to beat up Donald Trump.
If I meet with, whether it's a citizen or a non-citizen, and they give me information or an idea or talk about policy, there's nothing wrong with that.
The ongoing effort to normalize Russia, and more specifically normalize the meeting that took place in Trump Tower. Those were Republican members of Congress responding to questions about this Russia investigation, and that meeting involving Donald Trump Jr. and then some, a Russian lawyer, a list of others that grew today, thanks to our own Ken Dilanian. Well, all that having been said, joining us tonight to talk about it, Bloomberg White House correspondent Shannon Pettypiece is back with us. Her latest report tonight, and we'll ask her about it, is second Russian's role at Trump Jr. meeting raises questions. And new to our broadcast, politics editor for The Root, Jason Johnson, is with us. And longtime libertarian radio talk show host Jim Sharp is with us from his home state of Arizona. So, Jason, you get to go first. We saw just that relatively small sampling of GOP members of Congress, but we know they represent a larger group. We also know that the Russian obsession is not shared by the Trump base. So, are there Republicans you are watching who will be important if they turn a little bit, if something comes along that maybe makes them angry at all of this, even if it's just we're not getting anything passed?
Yeah, Brian, I think most of those things are likely to happen. Number one, the Republicans in the House and Senate right now, they're still desperately trying to get an agenda through, so they'll tolerate this until they think it's going to have serious electoral consequences. But I do think this, if we're perfectly candid about it, I think a lot of these leaks are very likely coming from people within the administration. They're likely coming from Republicans. This isn't some mysterious conspiracy deep state. These are very likely loyalist Republicans who sold their souls to be a part of this administration. They're disappointed in Donald Trump, and that's how this information is getting out. So I think the leaks themselves and the fact that we found out about this meeting is an indicator that some Republicans have already turned on this administration.
And Shannon, some of your reporting today that I found very interesting and important, you doubled back with the Clinton campaign because they've been named throughout in this story but not dwelled on. So tell the good folks in our audience what you found out.
The question I had was, so if this lawyer and this lobbyist, let's say they were just going around to the Trump campaign trying to say, hey, listen, if you're elected, there's this important Magnitsky Act and this adoption program. We want you to know about it. We'd love your support, doing lobbying work like any other lobbyist would do. Well, if they were out there doing this and they've been doing it aggressively on the Hill, did you go to the Clinton campaign and talk to them about it? So my colleagues and I, Margaret Talev, went through a number of Clinton sources. And at the end, we found that no, the Clinton campaign was able to definitively say they were not contacted by these two individuals who were at this Trump Tower meeting. They did not meet with them. They do not know these people. They have no connection. So there, at least with these two, there was no effort being made to also try and reach out to the Clinton campaign and sway the Clinton campaign in some way to come out against this act or to do any sort of quid pro quo if Hillary Clinton was to become president.
And Jim, by way of welcoming you to the broadcast, before I come to you, I want to play something I know you've seen and heard, and members of our audience may not have. There was a moment, a genuine moment today on Fox News. Shep Smith was talking to Chris Wallace, two of their straight news guys. They were talking about this Russian meeting in Trump Tower with Don Jr. As new details broke during their conversation, it was notable. If you witnessed it, here it is. We'll talk about it on the other side.
Fox News can now confirm more. Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort, the lawyer from Russia, the interpreter, this new guy we found out about today, and a mystery person. John Roberts confirms there was an eighth person in that meeting. We don't know, there may have been more, but there was an eighth. Jared Kushner filled out his form, I think it's an F-86, saying who he'd met with and what he'd done. Very important stuff. You can go to prison for messing it up, you know, intentionally. He went back and added 100 names and places. None of these people made it. They're still not clean. We're still not clean on this, Chris. If there's nothing there, and that's what they tell us there's nothing to this and nothing came of it, there's a nothing burger, it wasn't even memorable, didn't write it down, didn't tell you about it because it wasn't anything, so I didn't even remember it, with a Russian interpreter in the room at Trump Tower. If all of that, why all these lies? Why is it lie after lie after lie? If you clean, come on, clean, you know? My grandmother used to say, when first we practice to, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. The deception, Chris, is mind-boggling. And there are still people out there who believe we're making it up. And one day they're going to realize we're not and look around and go, where are we and why are we getting told all these lies?
In the context of cable news, I must say Eric Wemple of the Washington Post thought that was something of a Cronkite moment today. Jim, what did you make of it and what can we draw from it?
Well, when you've got Shep Smith quoting his grandmother, he is perplexed. And I think a lot of people are perplexed. There's a lot of things that I think, you know, that Donald Trump and the administration could be talking about that are positives. And unfortunately, they've now found themselves in this situation where this is all they are talking about. And whether there's anything there or not, whether this is a nothing burger or it's a something burger, as I heard it described earlier, you know, a double Whopper with cheese, they have made this look awfully, awfully skittish and weird. Just get out there. I did crisis communications as part of my career, and this is something I would never, ever tell anybody to do, and that is change your story several times. It just doesn't look good. It's almost like we don't know that an arson actually happened. There's an alleged arson, but they're basically saying, I was holding a match at the time of the alleged arson. It really is just mind-boggling that someone who's been so successful in life as Donald Trump has been in a lot of areas, you have to admit that, is not being very successful at this.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.